Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm reviewing a 2003 Kawasaki Prairie 360. This is a 4x4 model. It's also the automatic model. I'm going to give it a run around of everything on the bike. Then I'm going to rate it in a scoring system on a scale of 1 to 10. The categories will go over size, efficiency, utility, and overall fun. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, a few specs. This is an air-cooled and oil-cooled single-cylinder 362cc engine. It has the Kawasaki engine brake controller, which was the second model to ever have it besides the Prairie 650. Also, one of the first, if not the first, full-size chassis with only a mid-size motor. 35 inches is the seat height, can hold 3.5 gallons of gas. The wheelbase with stock wheels and tires is 49.2 inches. Also, the ground clearance with stock wheels and tires and no lift kit is 9.8 inches. Next up, moving on to the dash. One thing I do not like about this four-wheeler is that it does not come with any gauges. Although you can buy one aftermarket, really should come stock. For something that should come stock, $150 is how much you got to pay for it. That's dumb. But if you do end up buying it, it goes in right there. And if you don't have it, you get this, I guess, cool little cap for wire storage or something to keep instead of a gauge. I'd much rather have a gauge, but I guess it's fine. But anyway, moving on to the left side. Right there is your rear brake with a ratcheting parking brake. Pretty normal at the time period, but very different than a lot of four-wheelers of today. But it's pretty simple, and it's pretty much it. Moving on, the front differential control. That's something that a lot of four-wheelers didn't have at the time. In fact, I think this is one of the first four-wheelers to ever have it. Pretty neat. You can, instead of just having four-wheel drive, you can have differential lock. Next up is your headlight switch. In the middle is low beams, all the way up top is high beams, and all the way down is off. There's a little line that shows the symbols of what your headlights are doing. That is your electric start. It's pretty simple. You push the button and it starts it. Right there is your electronic kill switch, which kills the motor instead of having to turn the key. That is to override the reverse limiter. Now, this isn't intended for you to go 50 mile an hour in reverse. This is intended for if you're stuck, you can go more than 5 miles an hour in reverse. Now, I do think that the limiter should be a little higher than about 5 mile an hour. That's about what the limiter is. But Kawasaki did decide that 5 mile an hour is too slow in reverse. And if you want, you can go faster than that by hitting that little button. Again, don't go 50 mile an hour in reverse. You'll kill yourself. Anyway, moving on. That is your choke lever. All you got to do is pull it left to engage, right to disengage. Next up, there's your two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive switch, and your thumb throttle. Right there is your hydraulic brake reservoir for brake fluid. Right here is your front brake lever. I'm pulling it in right there. All you got to do is pull it in to engage. And that's that. Next up, let's talk about a couple lights. It should have gauges, but it does have a few lights. Right there is your neutral light, your oil light, and your reverse light is all the way to the right. Again, should have gauges, but it does have a few lights. Right there's your check belt light and your four-wheel drive light. Those are only little red dots when they are on, but you can see them really easy, especially at night, but I ain't complaining. Right there's your gas cap. This takes just regular 87 ethanol. Right there's your fuel gauge. Only gauge on this four-wheeler. Again, speedometer. I need it. Anyway, moving on. Right there is your shifter. Low is all the way to the top. High is in the middle. Neutral is one down, and then reverse is all the way down. So let's move on to the front. Right here is your front utility rack. That can hold about 88 pounds, which is great for hauling corn and anything you need. Moving on, there's your headlights. Again, low and high beams. Your front bumpers right there. Right there is the radiator for the oil cooler. There is a fan in the back for your air cool, and also you can see the wind. We'll also get to it. That's a bracket for a winch. That won't come on it. But right there is your disc brakes, which is nice that it has disc brakes instead of drum brakes. A lot easier to work on. But this actually has a 2-inch lift on it, and the suspension gets about 7 inches of travel. And this actually has 27-inch tires on it. It comes stock with 25s. Moving on to the back, right there is the exhaust system. This actually has an aftermarket slip-on. It's actually an FMF slip-on. So all the people out there who ride dirt bikes, y'all know that that is pretty common on dirt bikes, especially big bore 4-strokes and a lot of small engine 2-strokes. Moving on, right there is the trailer hitch and a pretty unique braking system. Instead of rear discs, like most four-wheelers had at the time, it has a very unique soaked oil system that has gears inside of it. So when the lever is pulled, that's how it stops in the back. But it also acts as the rear differential. As you can see, there's the cap to put oil in it. And this actually has the 2-inch lift, as I said. Again, 9.7 inches of suspension. This is an independent rear shock. It has the trailer hitch right there, which is rated for 2,000 pounds. The ball exactly is rated for 2,000 pounds. But this four-wheeler is rated to pull 1,100 pounds. But we actually got it to pull 2,500 pounds on a trailer that was full steel, dual axled, and had electric brakes on it. But it did have a little trouble, but that's mainly because it was pulling twice what it was rated for. Anyway, moving on. Right there is the tail light, which is pretty cool. It has a tail light, and it has a pretty useful little back storage compartment. A lot of four-wheelers had it at the time and still do have them, but some four-wheelers didn't, but this one did. This is your rear utility rack that comes on this four-wheeler. It is rated for 154 pounds, which isn't crazy much, but you can still get the job done with whatever you need to do. That little cable pulls your seat off. So, moving on to the seat. Right there is everything that's under the seat. There's not a whole lot. There is a bunch of wires and a battery. The wires are usually aftermarket stuff, and a couple of them are for some stock stuff. But right there is the air filter. Inside of that box is the air filter. And that's pretty much it for under the seat. Moving on down, right here is the single-cylinder 362cc engine. Right here is the exhaust system. Right there is the valve for the fuel system. All the way clockwise is reserve. In the middle is off, and all the way counterclockwise is on. Right there, I have it in reserve mode. And then, as you see, I'll turn it to off, and then all the way back to on. Off will be facing 6 o'clock, so that's how you can gauge it. Right there is your recoil starter and your dipstick for your oil, and that's pretty much that. That panel's broken, but there should be a little panel there. All right, that's a little thorough tour of the Prairie 360. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take it for a little spin and then rank it. All right, time to rank it. So, starting off is the size category. I give it about a 7 out of 10, mainly because it's big for the time period and for the engine size, but there are four-wheelers like the Sportsman and the Outlander that are bigger. Power category, the automatic transmission does make it a little slower, and it is a small engine on a big frame, but it does have a little pep to it, but not a lot, so I'll give it a 3. Smoothest category, it is very smooth. At the high RPMs, it is a little buzzy, but it is very smooth. The seat is very plush, so I like it, and I give it a 7. Crawling category, this is where the automatic shines. It is very hard to get away from you and very easy to maintain, so I give it an 8. Mudding category, it is pretty good, but it can spin out quite easy on stock tires because there's not a lot of tread on it, but it will do all right, and I'll give it a 6. Climbing category, it will go up the hills pretty easy, but it kind of does bog down if you start spinning a little bit in the high altitudes, mainly because it is not fuel injected, but I'll give it a 7. Utility-wise, it is a beast for what it is, but it still could pull a little more, but that's because it only has a little 300 engine in it, so I'll give it a 7. Looks category, looks all right. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing in the world. Usually the sport quads are the ones who look the nicest, but it looks all right, so I'll give it a 6. Reliability, these things are practically bulletproof if you maintain them correctly. If you're not sinking it in a pond every 10 days, then it will maintain really well. So I'll give it an 8. Portability, this thing is very portable. You can get it in the back of pretty much any truck. Maybe the only truck that you can't get it in the back of would be like an old Ford Ranger. So other than that, very portable. I give it a 9. Thank you for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a comment below on what you would want me to review next. You want me to review a park, a side-by-side, a four-wheeler, a dirt bike, whatever. Leave it in the comments below. I'll be sure to read it. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.